Good. Okay. Next, I'd like to invite up Andrea Jones. Andrea is going to talk to us about highlighting the moon and engaging the public in the 2017 solar eclipse and International Observe the Moon Night. Thanks very much.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. It is my pleasure to be here with you today. I'm very excited to get a chance to talk with you about two events that I hope you are already familiar with, in which I hope you're already involved. But I'd like to let you know a little bit about some of the resources that we have available from NASA that can help you engage your public in your community, your family, your friends, and anyone that you know in these events. So I will get started. So next slide, please. So first, I want to begin by asking how many people in this room have actually experienced and seen a total solar eclipse before? Excellent, excellent. How many of you are planning to try and see a solar eclipse, a total solar eclipse this summer? Wonderful. All right. Anyone who's seen one, would you like to yell out a word or two describing your experience? What's an emotion that you felt? Anyone want to? Spooky. All right. Awesome. Awe-inspiring. I have never seen one myself, but I have heard some pretty descriptive analogies to figure out what this might be like. I've heard it's the difference between seeing a partial solar eclipse and a total solar eclipse is sort of like sitting outside of an amazing restaurant and smelling the food as opposed to going inside and eating it. I've also heard it described as the difference between not dying and dying. I don't know, I have not seen this myself, but I do know there must be a reason that people dedicate, their lives to chasing solar eclipses around the globe. And this is an experience that people across the country will have the opportunity to be a part of this summer, and it's an opportunity that we all have to engage the public and to get them excited, to harness their excitement, and to keep them interested in space science and observation moving forward. So next slide, please. All right, so August 21st, I'm sure it's marked on many of your calendars, and it should be on everyone's calendar, beginning around 10 a.m. off the west coast of Oregon and continuing through the country and exiting around 3 p.m. Eastern off the coast of South Carolina. A narrow band of the United States will have the opportunity to see the entire bright disk of the sun obscured by the moon. And next slide, please. And I want to remind everyone in this room and anyone who might be watching that the moon is the central player in the total solar eclipse. And it's therefore an excellent opportunity to engage people in a conversation about the moon. Talk to them about recent lunar science results. Talk to them about how spacecraft in orbit around the moon now and recently have reshaped our understanding of our nearest neighbor in space and how we're using this information to understand, other objects in the solar system and beyond. This is a chance to do that. All eyes will be on the moon. So go ahead and talk about it with your friends, your family, and your communities. Next, please. So the moon not only has, this central role in the eclipse, but it also affects our experience of it as observers on the ground. So as Maria Zuber wonderfully told us, we understand the shape of the moon better than the shape of any other object in the solar system and beyond because our Earth is largely covered by water. So we don't know the shape of the solid surface of the Earth as well as we know the shape of the solid surface of the moon. And that allows us to predict the path of the moon's shadow across the Earth using that data. And our visualizer, Ernie Wright at the NASA Scientific Visualization Studio at NASA Goddard, used the lunar topography data, combined it with the topography data of the Earth to create the most accurate eclipse map that has ever been created. This is really important, especially for those people who are on the hairy edges of the eclipse path. This is actually a visualization, and if you have not seen it, I encourage you to go to the SVS website to see it, because you can see how the shadow kind of ripples along over the mountains and places like that, raising some people on mountains into the shadow of the moon and raising some people on the north end out of the shadow. And you really want to make sure you're on the right end of that if you would like to experience this. Next slide, please. So if you could start this is a visualization. Ernie was able to figure out how the shape of the moon is projected onto the Earth, and the low points in the lunar topography, there's no sound, the low points in the lunar topography actually each act as a pinhole projector and put cones of light down onto the surface of the Earth and create what is a polygon on the surface. And people were kind of not certain about this earlier. People most often put an ellipse out there to say, here's what the shadow will look like. But using the actual topography data, he's able to map out the rings of light that go into making this the shadow. And next, please. And then not only this, Ernie was actually able to take each of those points of light and map out exactly where they are on the lunar limb. So are we moving forward? Next slide, if it comes. And this is also a visualization. So he was able to figure out the edges of those polygons and how they correlate with particular dips in the lunar topography. So each one of those actually maps out to a specific point and a specific edge of the shadow on the ground. I thought this was really super cool. He took this to a mappers convention and an eclipse convention, and the whole audience was just wowed. And I thought you might all like to see this too. These are not even hot off the press. These are ready to be released very soon. Next slide. And they will all be, once they're all released, collected into a solar eclipse gallery on NASA's Scientific Visualization Studio website. There's lots of visualizations for the August 21st eclipse, but there's also collections of past visualizations of solar eclipses, of lunar eclipses, and B-roll from some of our live shots on news stations. So that's all up here. Coming out in the next few days will be another visualization that highlights the moon's role in the eclipse. That is an explanatory video, and it's not just something that you can look at and read about, but it is something that anyone from the public could see and help them better understand the moon's role in this event. Next slide, please. So if you are going to be involved in the eclipse, and if you are planning to talk about it with your family, friends, community, your favorite audience of your choice, I encourage you to visit the NASA Solar Eclipse website. So this is a place where NASA is putting all of its eclipse resources. This is a place where we're putting all of the partner resources from our networks around the country. We have the Night Sky Network, we have NASA Solar System Ambassadors, we have library networks, we have so many different groups that are all trying to get together and get the people that they are working with excited about the eclipse, and they're sharing their resources so that everyone else can access them as well. So on here, there's educational activities, there are citizen science projects, there's all kinds of things that you can find. And on this website, coming soon, will be a link to where you can live stream eclipse footage from across the country throughout the eclipse. So you may have heard that there will be high altitude balloons flying across the country. There are, I think, 70, or maybe that's too many, But Space Grant is working with NASA to launch these balloons across the country. They're all going to have cameras on them. They're going to have temperature sensors and other things. And they are all going to be streaming the shadow of the moon on the Earth. And then at NASA-supported eclipse events, we are going to be broadcasting portions of those events for anyone to see. And we're working with Stream.live to figure out how to highlight the events with the most exciting content at any given time, because we have dozens of feeds that will be featured, and we want to make sure that the best ones rise to the top at any given moment. So stay tuned for that. So next slide. If you are helping with an event, I encourage you to register it on the NASA Eclipse website to give headquarters an understanding of where NASA will be supporting different events. Now, on the website, there are many, many different event maps. This is the map of official NASA viewing locations for the eclipse. There's also a map of eclipse events in national parks. There's a map of solar system ambassador-supported events, maps of eclipse events in libraries, all different kinds. And you can register your event there as well to make sure that people know it's out there and can come to it if they would like to. I just heard this morning that you can no longer register to be an official NASA viewing location. They've capped that because they're providing special resources to places holding official events. And you also can no longer apply to be a NASA subject matter expert about the eclipse. That was something, a recent thing that you could do. However, if you are in this room, frankly, you are a NASA subject matter expert, even if it's not officially on the website. So I want to make sure that you still make use of the resources that are available. Next slide, please. All right, so regardless of where you will be, we have a very exciting activity that anyone in this hemisphere can participate in, and that is you can wave at the moon. NASA's Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter cameras will be pointed at the Earth, or we are going to try very hard to get them to point at the Earth during the eclipse to take a picture of the moon's shadow on the Earth during the shadow's path across the United States. So once we have the timing of that all settled, we will let you know where that will be and when that will occur, and we encourage you to go out, wave at the moon, wave at LRO, we'll take your picture, and then we'll post that on the NASA website. So, yes, you might not see yourself, but you'll be there, we promise. Next, please. And if you are helping in an eclipse event, we have put together a collection of moon-focused eclipse activities, of course, on the LRO website. And there's lots of different ones with impact craters and the scale of the Earth-Moon-Sun system, how something so relatively small can block something so relatively large, and on and on. So I encourage you to check this out. We'll also have specific activities intended for baseball stadiums, as LRO will be helping with a lot of events at baseball stadiums. But anyone that likes baseball anywhere can make eclipse analogies using baseball as a theme, so I encourage you to check that out as well. Next, please. And you can also feature content during the eclipse or leading up to it in a new NASA Twitter account that you may have heard of on the Lunar Listserv. But the NASA Moon account is a place from here on out for you to highlight your lunar science research funded by NASA, and I strongly encourage you to do so. We would love representation from across the agency and new content all the time, aimed at a general audience, so non-technical audience, would be wonderful. Next, please. And, of course, in order to sustain and capitalize on the momentum and enthusiasm for space science and observation following the eclipse, I strongly encourage you to participate in International Observe the Moon Night, which is an annual public outreach event where we engage everyone on Earth in lunar science and exploration and draw on the cultural and personal connections we all have to the moon. Anyone, anywhere can host an event, and there are lots of different resources that we have available to help you do that. Next, please. We had almost 600 events registered last year. We're hoping to improve that this year and make there even more people participating. Whether it's at a local ice cream shop with a telescope outside, or someone at a wedding had their whole wedding party go and search for the moon in the sky, or if you're at a NASA center or anywhere, you can host an event. Next, please. So I just want to leave you with this save the date card that we will have in the back for you to remind yourself of these two linked events, that the moon is the central player in the total solar eclipse and in International Observe the Moon Night. And I encourage you to go out and look at the moon on both of these occasions and to share your excitement and enthusiasm for the moon and for planetary science with those that you love and those that you care about on both events. Thank you.